think I can start. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining today's webinar. My name is Morsal. I work as an account executive at Clustermarket. Today, I will be discussing how you can save time by digitizing your lab operations in 4 easy steps. To give you an overview of today's webinar, I would like to start by mentioning some challenges of a modern lab, the solution for those challenges, 5 reasons you need to consider while choosing a system, 4 easy steps to implement the system, and at the end, I will also present you a small introduction demonstration of the platform of Clustermarket. To start, I would like to mention that we have been helping, Clustermarket have been helping many labs across the world, but also in Ireland, we have been actively being used by many multiple universities, but also companies. UCD, I'm going to start with showing you an example where I will mention this is a specific lab which I have been helping personally as well. It's the Conway Institute, the Imaging Core facility. So this specific lab, when they approached us, they had some lab challenges, issues which they were facing, some problems in terms of invoicing. It required a lot of work from their side, a lot of paperwork, and it was a lot of time for creating the invoicing and charging the users. They were using an old in-house system, which was very difficult to manage. It was not up to date, and it was difficult for them to add equipment and edit existing information. And of course, they had a problem with the lack of an equipment utilization data. So in the next slide, I will mention how we have been helping them. So after implementing Clustermarket, we were able to help them by providing them a helpful tailored report for invoicing the members with funding code. So that's one way where they easily get the reports for to invoice their users. Also, they replaced their old system by using an up-to-date, complete user-friendly system, which is Clustermarket, and on demand on a yearly basis, if they need, they could also request user statistics of the users. So that's how this specific lab we helped them and solve the issues they had. Of course, each lab is different and each lab challenges are different, but I will explain that in the next slides more in detail. So 5 things you need to consider while choosing a system. First of all, it's very important that it's easy and simple to implement. So that's the first step. You always need to look how the onboarding process is, if there is an easy and straightforward process in terms of implementing the system. It should be, as I mentioned, easy to use and feature rich. So that's very important as well. Also, of course, a best-in-class customer support is always important to ask. When you look for a system, you need to ask if they have a good customer support, because once you use the system, if you have any questions, if you have any problems with the system, you should be able to approach the customer support and get help with the question you have. So that's a very important step and one of the things you need to consider, of course, as well. Number 4 is smart integration. This is also a very important. So if you are using, for example, electronic lab notebook or different other systems, it's always easy to have everything in one place and not use different systems. So that should be a nice feature or something that a system should have when you consider and look for a system. And of course, last but not the least, pricing is very important as well. So it's always great if the system is free, and to know about that, that's always very important as well. So all these 5 steps is something which we provide as well. So that's what is important when you look for a system, and that's something we have in mind when we created the system for universities, but also for companies. So today, I'm very proud we can say that Clustermarket is being used globally by many universities, but also companies across the world. So here you can see some universities and companies using the platform in different companies, different countries. And today we have 80,000 instruments, 80,000 users, and 8,000 laboratories using Clustermarket on a daily basis. In terms of what we provide in terms of functionality and system requirements, so the platform provides a scheduling and a communication tool which allows you to book the equipment and to communicate with the users within the platform. Of course, there is a user and equipment management system, so it allows you to add equipment, edit, set different rules for that specific equipment, and define different booking rules for users as well. So if they are from a different department, or if they are a postdoc, a PhD, master, you should be able, and you can actually use the booking rules and define different booking rules for the users. Maintenance and servicing is something we have in the platform as well. So if the equipment is not working anymore, you want to notify people regarding that breakdown or maintenance, you should be able to block the calendar by using that feature. We also have now the availability to add maintenance contracts where you can associate your bookings or your equipment with a specific contract and say if it covers calibration, breakdown, and so you can do that on the platform as well. And last but not the least, reporting is very important to get the information. I'm explained the example of UCD Imaging Core in Conway Institute, where they wanted to have the invoicing because they are charging their users. So that's a very important feature to have, and that's something we do have and we provide. Now I would like to show you a brief introduction demonstration of the platform, how everything looks like. This will be a short introduction of the platform. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A section, and I'm more than happy to answer it after the demonstration. So let me show you. So this is how the system looks like. The system is a web-based system, which basically means you only need internet access, your username and password to access it. So after logging in, you land to the lab dashboard. So I'm using currently a test account just to show you all how it looks like for someone who logs in on the platform. So I'm using Lisa's account. She is the lab admin, so basically the PI, the lab manager, the person who manages and needs to have an overview of all the activities inside the lab. And that's something Lisa can see on the lab dashboard. So on the lab dashboard, you have the calendar where you can see all the equipments, a very nice feature where you can sort the equipments by rooms, labs, floors, categories, just so people, users understand where the equipment is located. So that's something you can see on the lab dashboard. You can see different colors. Just to mention, your own bookings will be shown in green. Other people's booking will be shown in gray with the name and the time they have booked. And then we have two different colors, which is red and yellow. And these two colors are the announcement feature. It's basically this one. It's the communication tool I mentioned, where you can notify people if the equipment is not working anymore. You can make it unavailable for a certain time, or if you just want to make them aware that something has been changed. So they should be aware of that. They can still use it, but they should be aware of that changes. So that's in terms of the calendar. So now I'm going to show you how easily you can book an equipment. And that's something for the users, the most important feature, because for them, it's only important to know how they can book the instrument. So for that, you just have to click on the name of the equipment. Let's say I would like to book, I'm so sorry, I need to. So You click on the name of the equipment, it opens the profile of the equipment like this. So I just clicked on the autoclave. You can see a picture which you can add when you add the instrument. And then you simply have to, you can see, read the details. You just have to simply use a specific time. And by drag and drop, you can book a specific slot. When you scroll down, if you charge the users, the user would be able to see the cost breakdown. If you don't charge, which is absolutely fine as well, they won't be able to see any costs. They only see the booking details, and that's it. So when you scroll down, you will be able to click on the book button and book the equipment. So that's how easily you can book an instrument. We have a lot of features on the platform. You can see all the features here available as well. Please bear in mind that this is only the view for someone who is a lab admin, so basically responsible for that lab account. So when you add an equipment, you just simply click on equipment overview. You will be able to see all the information, all the overview of available equipments in this lab account. You can always edit, delete this existing account equipment. And when you click on add equipment, you will be able to add the equipment. So it asks you for some information such as general information, pricing, time and availability, maintenance, and additional information. So these are just a few informations needed when you add the equipment. You can add related documents on the general information part, such as SOPs, safety instructions, protocols. Every time they book the equipment, they can also open and see the related document. You can charge different people different prices. If you charge, definitely you can change the currency, and you can make different prices for different people if you charge. If you don't, you can just ignore this and skip this part, and you can set different rules as well. So we have a lot of features available on the platform as well. If you click on create equipment, the equipment will be created. So that's how you add an instrument. That's a very straightforward process. We have services as well. So basically material testing, where you send the samples, someone else execute the experiment for you. So this is something more flexible. It's not linked with the calendar. People can request the service, and then you can charge per sample, per run, per day, per hour by creating a quote. So very easy to use. I have been seeing people using it for training purposes as well. So people just add that as a service, and then people can request a training for a specific equipment as well. Users, also very important, of course. So basically what we have on Clustermarket is each person needs to be invited to the account, and depending on your role, because we have different roles, depending on your role, you can do certain things or you can't do certain things. So if you are just a user that just needs to be able to book the instruments, that's basically a student or a researcher account. It's very simple, straightforward. They just log in and they see the equipment they are assigned to or they are able to book, and they just book the equipment. That's it. But of course, if you are an admin who is the person that set up the account and set all the different rules, it's much more features, and the rules, all the requirements are more from your side in terms of setting up the account. So adding users to your account, it's also straightforward. There's two different processes which you can use. You can invite someone individually by selecting the role, first name and email address, and send the invite. Basically, the person receives an email from Clustermarket where they have to click on the link provided in the email, and following the steps, and they will be part of your lab account. You can also invite multiple users at the same time. This is also a very easy feature where you can easily bulk invite multiple users. You simply have to select the role first. Let's say I would like to invite a group of students to my lab account. You just click on generate URL. It creates an access link, an invitation link, which you can copy and share with the users. Once you have done that, everyone who will click on the link, they will be part of your lab account. So that's how you easily can invite a bulk of people to your account. You can always remove users. There is unlimited users added, unlimited equipments added. And this is everything I'm showing you right now. It's the free package, which we have on Clustermarket. So there is no price linked to this. And we offer this for free for academics and companies. So that's in terms of adding users. We have projects as well. I mentioned in the example with UCD that they were invoiced, they had the issue they had was in terms of invoicing. So what you can do in case that's something you have as well, you can use the platform and then you would be able to charge the users with funding codes, grant codes by creating projects. So a project is basically where people can associate their bookings with a specific funding code. So you can allow users to create their own projects, or you can add a project. It looks like this. You have to add the specific name of the project, the supervisor or the PI, and then the funding code details for that specific project. You can select the users who can access that specific project, and then you can add the project. So that's in terms of projects announcement. I have mentioned that very briefly when I was on the calendar with the red and yellow. It's basically the communication tool where you can notify people if the equipment is not working anymore, or if you just want to notify them that something has been changed. So that's something you can do as well. If you click on the announcement, you would be able to create an announcement and notify people if there is a breakdown, maintenance, or just to notify them. Reports, a very important feature. Of course, I mentioned about the charging. So this is basically what we have, where you can extract all the summary of the bookings. It gives you in a CSV Excel file format all the information you need. So basically, it mentions who booked it, for how long they booked it, which equipment they booked, which group they are part of, what project they use, which funding code they use, who is the supervisor, and so on. So you get a lot of information that you can use for creating the invoices. So you select the time in which you are interested, and then you can also add filters if you just want to know specific information only as well. So that's how you can use the reports for invoicing purposes, but also, of course, for other purposes, just to know how much a specific equipment is used the last month. So that's all the features. Of course, there is much more. If I go to the user section, we have the groups feature as well, where you can define the booking rules. I mentioned that as well. Where if people need to have different access rules because they are not trained for the equipment or they belong to another department, that's something you can set on the groups as well by creating different groups and giving different access rules to the group people. So that's all regarding the Clustermarket page platform. So I'm going to go back to my presentation. So to sum up today's webinar, and of course answer the question how to save time by digitizing your lab operations in 4 steps. So of course the first step is reviewing the status quo. You always need to ask yourself, what are the challenges the lab is facing at the moment? What are the problems? And number 2 is, of course, selecting the right tools. We always recommend using a lab management system. It also helps you to save time, but also for the users. It's something very important because they can plan in advance. It's very easy for them to know if the equipment is available or not. And especially when it comes to research, you always need to plan in advance. So It's always good to know, okay, if I have an experiment next week, is that equipment available or not? And to be able to easily see that. So number 3 is, of course, testing the products. We always recommend, after mentioning that to you, to use the system, to test it, of course, as well, and see if it's fitting, if it's the right tool for you. And then number 4 is implementation of the new system, which is also very important. A full onboarding process should be provided to you as well. Which brings me to the last slide. So thank you everyone very, very much for joining today's webinar. I hope this was helpful and I hope you learned something today as well. I'm more than happy to provide a full demonstration of the platform. You can scan the QR code here on the screen, and it's linked with my calendar, so you can book a call with me, and I'm more than happy to show you the platform. If you would like to send me an email because you have any questions later, or you would like to know more about myself, please, here you can find my email address, and I'm more than happy to help you out. So I know there is a few questions, so I'm gonna quickly look at the questions. So thank you so much, Mr. Dalton. You asked about if multiple units within an organization use this app, are their accounts connected so that it allows for future integration? Yes, definitely. That's one of the features which we have. Of course, that's something we have where you can be connected. You can be associated with multiple lab accounts within your organization, within your university. That's something we have available. You just have to be invited in each separate account. So if you log in for the first time, you just have to be invited in the other account, whoever is responsible for that account, and then you would be able to easily see that and access that account if you would like to. So it is definitely possible. And that's something we have been seeing with UCD as well, that multiple labs within the university is using us, and they are inviting the people who should access another department or another core facility. Another question is, if we decide to use a different system in the future, can we download activity equipment and activity details? So if you decide to switch and use another system in the future, we can offer and show you all the equipment information which has been added. You can also get the list of the users which you have invited as well. Thank you very much, Liam, for the question. Hi, Morsal. If a user experiences a problem with a piece of an equipment, can they communicate back to the issue via the system? Absolutely. There is a live chat available. So when they log in, you can see the live chat. It's connected with my colleague, Hannah, who will be able to provide you with the solution if the user has any problems with the platform. So that's definitely possible. It's a live chat on the platform and the system itself. I hope I answered all the questions. If there is any other questions, please feel free to ask, and I'm more than happy to answer. Thank you very much, everyone, for today's webinar. I hope you liked it, and I hope to hear back from you. Thank you very much. I hope everyone had a lovely day. Bye-bye. Take care.